I'm Carsten Brunn. I'm heading up our pharma business in the Americas. And I have to disappoint you, neither Frank or I are One Health specialists. But having said this, we actually are innately involved in addressing some of the One Health challenges, actually. And many of you know Bayer, or Bayer, as it's said in the US. We are a global life science company, and we're actually spanning healthcare and agriculture. And with this focus on life sciences, gives us a unique opportunity to do research across species, so human, animal, and plant. And it's exactly the reason why we're sitting up here today to share how we do this, share some real examples of how we do this, but also the challenges of addressing these challenges and the help we need from a larger community to address those, because these are fundamental issues that really concern humanity, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. Now, talk about my business, pharmaceuticals. So we're in the business of driving innovation, bringing innovative, specialty-focused medicines to patients across a number of therapeutics areas, cardiovascular, oncology, women's health, hematology, and ophthalmology. And I like the introduction. The theme is breakthrough and breakthrough silos. So what we want to do today, Frank and I, is not have a pre-scripted presentation with slides, but rather a dialogue between the two of us, where we look at breakthroughs, real breakthroughs that we are working on as a company, breakthroughs we deliver to society, but also the two of us are trying to break through our silos. So I'm going to tackle some of the agricultural questions and concerns, and Frank will do the same for the pharmaceutical side of things. And with that, Frank, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Carsten, and welcome to all of you, and thanks for joining us here today. My name is Frank Terhaus, and I'm leading Bayer's global seed business. And as Carsten mentioned, what we want to do here today with you is having a conversation about what can companies like Bayer contribute, but also how do we engage within Bayer. And believe it or not, this is the first session I ever have with a colleague from the pharmaceutical division, which shows you that we also have those silos within our companies, but we also would like to show you today that we are really about to break those silos up because we see that many of those challenges Bill talked about just cannot be solved by one division or one discipline only, and for sure also not by one company. So within our crop science division, which includes both agricultural and non-agricultural, chemical and biological tools, we also have traditional and innovative seed solutions, and we are working to further enhance food, feed, fiber, and also renewable raw material production. Obviously in support of some of the larger challenges we have just heard about in the excellent presentation of Dr. Koresh. But we will also make the argument here today that actually food production and plant health is also a very important dimension to bring this all together, which was maybe so far not yet that prominently featured. At Bayer, we actually have been addressing some of the big society's challenges for more than 150 years. And probably even more important, we are really very excited and looking forward to the next 50 years to understand where we can contribute to the needs of a growing and also aging population. So today's conversation here at Bayer is linked to our focus on the life sciences, and as an integrated life science company working on issues affecting human, animal, plant, and environmental health. So actually all pieces of the big One Health puzzle.
Yes, and puzzle is really the key word here, because it's a very complex puzzle actually. And while researching a little bit on One Health, there's many definitions and different angles, I think, to take with One Health. But I want to really start, and this is really building on what Dr. Karesh talked about, is the challenges actually that we face as humanity. And it's really some of the fundamental challenges we have around health and food. How do we actually feed humanity, and how do we keep humanity healthy? And if you look at some of the statistics, they're really mind-boggling. We currently have a population of 7.3 billion, which will grow to 9.7, and this number is shifting a little bit depending where you look, but close to 10 billion. And if you look where this growth occurs, it's not going to be in the US or Europe. It's going to be in sub-Saharan Africa, and it's going to be in Asia, and mainly in India. So you have a geographical trend that's important to keep in mind. The other piece is all this growth actually will happen in urban spaces. And you can see back as an illustration of that, if you look right now, about 50-50 of the population lives right now in rural areas, in urban areas. That will shift quite dramatically to over 70% in 2050, and that will have implications around who actually will produce food. Now, the other piece which is fascinating is the life expectancy is increasing significantly. I spent the last 4 years in Japan, and Japan has one of the most rapidly aging populations in the world, and it's probably the first country to address this. But this is going to be a global phenomenon, because all these people in the, what we call now, developing countries actually are going to age as well. Their life expectancy is going to increase dramatically. So in 2050, the number of people over 60 years old will increase to 2 billion. So it's going to double until the year 2050. So that's about 22% of the global population, and it's even higher in the Western world, where it's between 30 and 40%. And as a result, unfortunately, the older you get, the more ailments you have as well. So that poses unique challenges around health. How do we keep elderly people healthy so they can contribute to society? And associated with that is how we can be sure we reduce cost associated with healthcare. And if you look at some of the disease patterns of the future, it is still cardiovascular disease, which is about responsible for 1/3 of death. Also in the year 2050, that's the anticipation. But also cancer, which in some areas, like Japan, is already the #1 killer actually. But also neurodegenerative disease is a key driver in the future. And believe it or not, actually, infectious disease has the potential to come back with so-called superbugs as well. So tremendous challenges that we have around this. Now let's get back to feeding the population. We all know, and we hear in the news, that the farmland per head actually is shrinking. That means that, so we're not going to increase that. So we have to increase the productivity to preserve food supply for the long term. And what we basically need is new technologies to grow more from less land with fewer hands, actually. And so in hard numbers, this means we have to increase the productivity by 70%. And you're going to say, but the population only increases 35%. How come? Well, the food patterns also change of the population. So in the developing world, more and more people eat meat. So this means that we have to increase the crop production by 1 billion tons, actually, from 2 to 3 billion tons, and meat production from 200 to 500 million tons. So a tremendous burden and challenge, actually, to address this. And so I think in summary, the challenge is really how do we can provide sustainable healthcare for this population of almost 10 billion, while we actually feed this population in a sustainable way as well. And we want to talk a little bit about how we do this as a company at the moment, and what are some of the trends that we're working on, which we see have the potential to be breakthrough.
Carsten, those are really great points, and I think this is also where healthcare and food production and nutrition really come together. Clearly in Bayer, but also in our industry, we firmly believe that good nutrition plays a very important role for public health. And you mentioned already the diet shifts, but also the fact that about close to 1 billion people today do not get enough nutrition. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have 2 billion people, mostly in the developed countries, who actually have too much to eat, or too much calories at least. So the entire consumption pattern, we believe, is very important. And as an industry, we believe we have a great responsibilities to consumers, not only to provide products for healthy consumption, but also to encourage actually better food patterns. So choices like fresh fruits and vegetables, and actually as an industry, this is also something where we can contribute. So you may have seen the trend of snack vegetables over the past years, which actually was a tremendous driver of vegetable consumption, so very positive. Or if you go into an airline launch today, those baby carrots. So fantastic development, and you know, you immediately feel better if you are like me, you know, if you eat those baby carrots instead of you know, some of the other choices that was before. So there's innovation in food production which can also incentivize better food patterns, and we believe we have an important role to play. We in Bayer also work together with other associations, organizations, to further promote the consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables. So for instance, we are working together with the United Fresh Start Foundation, investing resources to support their mission, and to further increase actually the consumption, in particular with children, which also from an educational point of view, we believe is very important. However, we believe the need for healthier food choices goes far beyond the more obvious fruit and vegetables, and there's also a lot that we can do in other areas. So for instance, we have developed a canola oil that offers actually a much healthier high oleic oil profile than others, and further contribute to a better nutrition and lifestyle. So that kind of touches a little bit of how closely those areas are linked, and what we can do on the agricultural side. However, we are also working together between our respective divisions to identify and to address some of the really bigger societal challenges that we are currently facing, and some of them were already mentioned just by Dr. Kresch. So a good example here is, I believe, the fight against some of the tropical diseases. 1 billion people around the world suffer today from a tropical disease. And as a life science company, we believe we are uniquely positioned to help here by both providing medicine to treat patients, but as well also to offer solutions to control vectors. Because both really, we believe, needs to go hand in hand. Zika is just one of those terrible examples, which obviously is a huge public health issue, especially because it relates to women's health and the transmission through pregnancy. So we are working very closely together with WHO and CDC to ensure access to safe and effective contraception methods, as well as providing ongoing education, training, and the awareness of healthcare professionals and patients about available contraceptive options. Also mentioned already, so when the Zika breakout really became a big issue for us and for society, we actually worked very closely to provide IUDs with experience in helping and address those issues, both in developed and in developing countries. So. In our attempt really to look at it from a holistic perspective, also within Bayer, we quickly also combined this with an approach to add our strong expertise in vector control. Because as you all know, the mosquitoes are carrying that virus, and without really controlling the vector, it is actually very difficult to provide holistic solutions. So we have been actually working, and we had been working on this specific mosquito type for quite some time. So we had deep expertise and could provide solutions by making available products, insecticides, which to support the growing need for control. And when we talked to scientists and to the WHO organization about this, I mean, quickly that resonated very well. And I'm just quote one of the scientists of the WHO by saying, well, only a dead mosquito is a good mosquito in this context. And again, this is obviously very obvious, but a holistic approach of vector control on the one hand side, but then also fighting that terrible disease on the one hand side was really very instrumental to get back in control. So just last year when the Zika virus was poised to hit Puerto Rico, and in fact the first cases turned up even closer here to the States, we were one of the first actually to mobilize and to help the CDC respond by providing actually significant product donations of intrauterine devices and oral contraceptives, but as well as our concentrated mosquito insecticide tablets and insecticide-treated bed nets. So a combination which you would not immediately think of, but actually for those cases are extremely important to come and to fight this crisis from both sides. Some other things we are doing, we are working with the DNDi initiative to develop amodepside product to treat worms in cats and dogs, to advance the development of a therapy class needed to fight, for instance, river blindness and also elephantiasis, a terrible disease in humans caused by a filarial worm. So the new partnerships, but also the more holistic approach that we take within Bayer by bringing our two organizations closer together is, I think, needed, and just the way we do it in Bayer is just a mirror of what we would expect also now from a broader industry coming together. And with that, Carsten, we are at another important topic, which is collaboration as one of the drivers.
Indeed, Frank, excellent job. Great to hear. from a farmer to hear about pharma. That was excellent. And there's a lot of collaboration that Frank already talked about, our collaboration with CDC and WHO. And I mean, this conference here is all about collaboration, actually. There's a lot of partnering meetings going on. There's a lot of exchange of new ideas. A lot of innovation is actually generated here through collaboration. And I think if we look at the pharma business model, it's really evolving from treating symptoms to modifying disease towards more and more curing disease. And it's complex, so not one company can do this alone. So collaboration is critical, and we do this. Every company does this, small or large. But I want to showcase one specific example of really, I think, a unique approach to innovation, leading to potential breakthrough innovations. So we as a company set up a new function which is independent of the divisions, which is independent of research and development, and their goal is to drive breakthrough innovations, so cures, across species. So human health, animal health, and plant health as well. And the idea is to address those fundamental challenges, once again, to humanity, if you want to use that big term, is by making actually early equity-based investments in breakthrough R&D concepts. And kind of the concept is built around a couple of pillars, and I just had a chance to meet with the head of this new group. So the first one is really, it needs to be big ideas. And I'm going to talk specifically about two big ideas, which are going to have, I think, profound impact on all of us. The second one is to make substantial early investments. So not right before something, oh, this is interesting, really early and substantial. I'll talk a minute what substantial means to us. It's a big amount. The third really is not to have this commercially driven, but driven by the science. And I think that's really important as well. And I think not every company has that philosophy and approach. But being a scientist, originally myself, I think this is the right approach to really drive innovation. The fourth, we want to offer our know-how as a company. I think what Big Pharma does well is translational medicine and development. So I think there's things that we can bring to the table. And the fifth is really to work in a highly collaborative way. And I was just up in Boston last week, where we had a very exciting event. We opened up an innovation center in the heart of Cambridge, but we also welcomed two companies to that innovation center. And I want to talk about those two companies. Both, I think, work on breakthrough innovation. Now, the first one is called Casa Pia Therapeutics, and it is a joint venture which was established in 2015 between CRISPR Therapeutics and Bayer. And it's a 50-50 joint venture, and as the name indicates, it's all about gene editing. And I think we're all excited about the potential of CRISPR-Cas9 technology. And we're really focusing with this company on a couple of areas. One is blood disorders. And the unique thing about all of this is all in vivo. And blood disease is one of the easier ones. You can actually take the blood out of the body and put it actually back into the body, right? So blood disease is actually one of the first ones, because oftentimes the vector to the liver is the challenge. So blood disorders are one. Blindness is another area we're working on, and congenital heart disease. So really moving from disease management to curing a disease. Obviously, this is a concept that's only 4 or 5 years old with the discovery of this technology, but I think it's really pretty wide-reaching. And we're starting with this in the human space in those therapeutic areas I just mentioned, but the applications, the potential applications are huge and also span, of course, over to plant health, to agriculture, to animal health as well. So I think quite tremendous. So this is one where we're looking also, and I mentioned blood disease, on the targeted delivery systems as well, which is critical, and it's really a collaboration where we bring some of the expertise that we have in-house around protein engineering, disease state knowledge, and we really merge this with the CRISPR-Cas9 technology. So I think hopefully all of us will benefit from this at one point. The other one is a very interesting, once again, a breakthrough area. It's a company called BlueRock Therapeutics. It's a joint venture between Bayer and Versant Ventures, and it's based on iPS technology, so induced pluripotent stem cells. And I think, once again, this is real breakthrough, and it's, once again, also all about collaboration. I was personally involved in my last role actually negotiating some of the IP with Professor Yamanaka, who won the Nobel Prize for discovering this iPS technology with academic centers in the US and also in Canada, actually. So it's a truly international industry and academia collaboration. And it's amazing if you look at the potential of this. I was in Professor Yamanaka's labs in Kyoto, and I've seen iPS-derived human heart cells, which you see beating in a petri dish. And so this is one of the first areas we're addressing, is specifically myocardial infarction, where you have, after infarction, ischemic tissue, which oftentimes leads to heart failure. And the idea really is to regenerate that tissue. So really breakthrough. The other area is neurodegenerative disease, Alzheimer's, with a very similar approach. Obviously highly complex, but also the amazing potential for a breakthrough and a cure. And I talked about money earlier. So we put forward $300 million to Casa Pia and $225 million to BlueRock Therapeutics, which is actually one of the largest Series A financing for biotech for a long time, actually. So, and the aspiration is to move into a clinical program very soon. And I think it's really go back to the breakthrough nature of things. The goal is to move from treating symptoms to curing disease. And I think extremely exciting. It will change our lives. Hopefully, well, we can benefit from this. Definitely the lives of our children.
So external collaboration is really the new standard, is the new must for also for large companies like ours. And what is really fascinating is that some of those technologies really reach and cut through all the areas we have been discussing. So healthcare, animal health, plant health, and that's why we are so excited about it. And of course, that also requires a mindset shift for us working with others. But, and I'm coming back to the internal collaboration, a mindset shift also for us within a company, and I would really make the argument for each and every company, big or small. A much more systematic and intense collaboration amongst our researchers and different divisions is really crucial to really then also use and optimize all of those new technologies we have. So in our company, scientists are much more collaborating today than they have in the past on products evolving, for instance, central biologic processes, such as gene regulation, again, an area which we find back in humans, in animals, and in plants, or energy metabolism. So you really have today combined themes where we really can benefit a lot from each other. So the joint use of those platforms is currently really growing a lot. And also other tools which are available help us to do that. So we have just last year launched a collaboration tool within our company called Resolve, so an internal crowdsourcing tool. And after actually many not so successful attempts in the past, this one is really positive and has really a lot of new stimulus for the various divisions. So we have been working and have found new solutions, for instance, for new packaging of diagnostic tools, but also some more general topics like gaining better societal trust for innovations such as GMOs have been a topic for this platform. So we have forums, also awards for our scientific teams, where actually we specifically incentivize and reward cross-functional collaboration. So make those scientists which collaborate and actually find new ways by taking input from others, the new heroes for the company, which I think is very important. And sometimes we just steal or leverage ideas that others had. So for instance, a few years ago, we opened up on the pharma side a startup, so an incubator, a collaborator in the San Francisco Bay area, very successful because those startups really work closely with our own research team, which we have on site. And on the crop science side, we are just doing now the same in West Sacramento, where we have actually a very impressive research team for our biologics and our vegetable seeds department, and where we open up a crop collaborator tool just during the next months. So a lot of exciting things happening inside and outside of the company, and for sure we are very excited to contribute and hopefully also address some of those challenges successfully. Carsten.
Thank you, Frank. So we have successfully managed to go almost 4 minutes above a lot of the time, and I want to quickly wrap up. So I do hope that we could contribute to the One Health debate with a different angle, maybe from a industry perspective, some of the advances, but also some of the challenges we face around collaboration. I want to specifically thank the Bio organization for taking on the One Health topic. I think it's extremely meaningful and important, and thank them for inviting us to contribute to this. And I really think the walkaway message is that this is a global issue that not one organization or one company address, and I think really the key here is collaboration and a mindset of sharing and really addressing the issues because they impact all of us, and I hope we were able to contribute to this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.